Welcome back to the Old Soul, New Soul Astrology podcast, presuming that you have joined us before. If this is your very first episode, welcome aboard. We have a whole library of amazing astrological information, much of it often driven by you who submit questions to us. And how you do that is over on the funastrology.com website. Up at the very top is an orange button, and you can click that button and send us questions like this.
Hi, Thomas. I have a question. Well, it's a twofold question. The first part is solar return. So my solar return is coming up on September 9th this year. And I guess my question would be, what kind of a thing are you looking for on your solar return? Like, what is the purpose of reviewing a solar return? And then the other part of it, the question is, Mercury also goes into retrograde on September 9th this year. So what would be the impact, or what kind of things should I be looking for as Mercury goes into retrograde on my solar return? Thank you.
Now, Robert, we might have some people who are very into the early stages of their astrological journey. So first of all, and I'm going to give a hint here, so happy birthday to our listener who submitted this question. What is, let's begin with, the solar return?
Love her question. The solar return is a horoscope that is erected for the moment that the sun, the sun returns to its exact degree and minute of birth every year, which is roughly, it's going to be on your birthday every year, but it has to be the exact degree and the exact minute. And thankfully, computer programs allow us to do this very easily. We click solar return and give it a date, a year, and that's it. It used to take a long time to do this. And so what you're getting is a chart that replicates the sun's degree and minute at your birth, and yet it's the transiting the current planets. Solar return charts are much more important in terms of psychology and inner states than they are for events. Events are a little bit more predictable, if you will, through transits and through solar arcs, or if you use progressions. But the solar return is really invaluable as far as understanding your inner state, where the position of the sun by house, the sign positions are really less important in solar returns than the house positions are. So, for example, if she has Mercury retrograde in her solar return chart, it's important for her to know what house in the solar return that Mercury retrograde is. And Mercury retrograde, for example, any retrograde planet really, but certainly a personal planet like Mercury, any reword, return, revisit, revise, repair, rethink, renegotiate, on and on and on, any word that begins with re is probably going to be applicable to the house matters where she would find her Mercury. So if she had, let's say Mercury retrograde in her fourth house, and she was thinking about moving, you would be asking her, first of all, it might not be the year to move with a Mercury retrograde in the fourth. But in any case, if she is going to move in that year, to be sure that she negotiates down to the last dotted I and crossed T. She's got to pay attention to the terms of the loans and the selling of the house and the buying the new house and all of those paperwork details. If it were in the ninth house, for example, Mercury retrograde in the solar return chart, you would say, it looks to me like you may be feeling, notice how it's internalized, feeling like getting back in touch with people from your past who are perhaps at a long distance from you. You may be wanting to call them, or they may in fact get in touch with you. This idea of retrograding and returning to something to reappraise it, to reassess it. And that's the main trait of a Mercury retrograde, is this area needs more attention. It needs work, especially in connection with some details. It may be missed communications. If you have said something to someone that has wrecked the relationship, you might want to rethink their value in your life. And if you realize you made a mistake, be the first to own up to that. Contact them and say, I've really been bothered by what went on between us. And I had time to think about it. I think I was wrong in what I said. Could we talk and let me see if I can be clearer about what I intended to say? And would you forgive me? That kind of thing. Some people can't do that. Some people just cannot admit mistakes and cannot ask for forgiveness. And that may be in her birth chart. The thing about solar return charts, and there are many people, Thomas, the solar return chart is erected for where you are on that day. On the day of your birthday. I know astrologers who will travel great distances sometimes to be in a more favorable location for their solar return chart. I wouldn't do it.
Oh, there are some people that put trip packages together for it.
Based on that, yeah, absolutely. So a solar return chart is not going to change anything of great significance that's going on with the transits and the solar arcs. Those are still much more powerful, or let's say clearer than a solar arc chart. But the solar return chart. The solar return chart is a great chart for looking at the year ahead. Basically, it's from birthday to birthday with about a 3-month orb on either side of the beginning and ending of the solar return chart. But it's a wonderful way to look and see what this year, and only this year, it's like a temporary birth chart almost, what this year holds for you. So where you find Mars in the solar return chart, that's the house where you need to take action. And then the house that is ruled by Mars in that solar return chart, the matters of that house will be involved in the action that you're taking. So you see Mars in the solar return chart in a person's second house, let's say. You know that finances for this year are going to be active, and and then you can begin to incorporate some of the sign qualities that that Mars happens to be in. But it's a guide that way to look at the year ahead. Where you find Jupiter, that's where you are expanding. Psychologically, you're expanding. Emotionally, you're expanding. Where Jupiter is, there may be opportunities in that area of life where Jupiter is located by house and so on. Where you have Saturn, pay attention to that house, because you're going to have to face responsibilities in connection with this house. And then you can go from there. What does that mean? Face responsibilities. Well, Saturn in the 7th, you need to take responsibilities for your interaction with your mate or your business partner, the way you approach other people. As long as you're being responsible, Saturn is your friend.
Absolutely.
I love it.
Yeah. Now, we can granularize, there's a big word, this
like
early in the morning. Yeah, this early in the morning, with the moon, and do the same thing on a monthly basis.
Exactly. The lunar return chart. Personally, I don't use them, only because I get as much as I feel I need from transits and solar arcs. And people can get lost and actually get very confused when they start, but look at my lunar return. But look at my solar return. Or they add the asteroids and so on. Well, there are asteroids all over the place. They really are. There are hundreds of them.
Yeah. And
you can find, and they're kind of interesting. It's almost like play, because each asteroid Caput Algol is associated with beheadings, for example.
Yeah,
well,
exactly.
Lost your head. Well, you take it figuratively, but you can do that with any of these symbolic methods. The Sabian symbols are the same thing. A white swan floats on the lotus in a lake beneath a mountain. Okay, fine. Beautiful image. What the heck does it mean? But your fantasy and so on can extrapolate from that. So some people love those things. I just have never, as I've told you before, I tend to be very pragmatic about astrology and very spiritual at the same time. But I have Mercury and Jupiter in Virgo. I don't really care about a white swan on a lake beneath a mountain. It doesn't help me live my life, so I don't use it.
All right, let's do one thing, though. There is a beautiful application of this, and that is that in the world of astrology, in the realm of space-time, as you so beautifully say it, everything has a point of origin. So that means a marriage has a point of origin, the time of the ceremony, or you could even say the time that the license is affected, the government part of the process of getting married. Every person has, obviously, a birth time. That's why it's so important to know the exact time that you were born. A business has a birth time. Typically for a public company, that's when it's first traded on the stock exchange, or it might be, if it's a private company, when the incorporation documents are signed. All of these things have a point of origin, and this is just another point of origin, as you're saying, is technically the solar return for your next year is the point of origin for that year.
Yeah, it's like a temporary natal chart. And I think it's valuable to look at it. But if you treat it in perspective, it's not going to take the place of what's going on with transits and solar arcs. But I don't think it's meant to. It's just an additional layer of information about your own psyche, really. And the sun's location by solar return chart is always, to me, very valuable to know, because that is the life force. It's the glyph, the symbol for the life force. So temporarily for that year, the location by house of where your sun is should tell you this is where you are going to give and get life and get renewal through these house matters this year.
Great.
See what I mean?
Absolutely. And Christine, hope that helps answer your question. Thank you, Robert. That was great. And I love the fact that we tied it into all of these different areas as well. If you'd like to talk to Robert, he is available for readings. He's booking them about a month or two out, but contact him through the link that's in the show notes. We also have our Discord channel in there. Kristen Lawhead is knocking the cover off the ball, to use, I don't know what kind of astrological terminology that is, Robert. What house would the knocking the cover off the ball come under?
I don't know.
Yeah. But she's doing it, and that's in our Discord group over in the Discord channel under Fun Astrology Podcast, which is kind of the umbrella of all of this stuff that we're doing it under. So you can check that out over there. Just free, just jump in. All right, we're going to get out of here. Thank you so much, Christine, for that question. If you would like to leave a question for Robert, go to the funastrology.com website, and it's the orange button up at the top. We'll see you next time on Old Soul, New Soul Astrology Podcast with Robert Glasscock. Thanks for listening.